Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to this live stream, live in the Make More Placements community. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds or so. It's going to allow a few people to join. We're going to be talking about 3 secrets to commanding higher fees in your recruitment or search business without losing out to your competitors. And we're going to get started in a few seconds. Terry, can you speak so I can check your...
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our weekly Facebook Live, where we give you tools, techniques, strategies to help you generate more leads, make more placements, and earn more money with fewer headaches. And thank you very much for joining us today.
And today we're going to be talking about 3 secrets to commanding higher fees in your recruitment or search business without losing out to your competitors. Again, if you're just tuning in, can you do us a favor? If you're listening live, just write the word live in the comment box, just so we know that you can see and hear us okay. So we know everything's working from a technical standpoint. And if you're listening to the replay, write the word replay in the comments just to help with engagement. Let us know that you're listening in. So either, live if you're listening live, or replay if you're watching the replay, just to let us know that everything is working. And today we're going to be talking about 3 secrets to commanding higher fees in your recruitment or search business without losing out to your competitors. So, pricing fees, what you charge in your recruitment business is actually one of my favorite topics, favorite things to talk about. Something that, both me and Terry can, spend days talking about. And, at our live events, we spend hours just on the subject of fees, pricing, your fee structure, how you collect money, how you charge, how you invoice your clients. And it's actually, it's one of the easiest things to shift from from your point of view. If you want to grow your business, you want to not necessarily grow in terms of headcount, but in terms of profit. It's one of the easiest things to shift to get a result in that. And it's so I'm looking forward to sharing with you today 3 of the secrets that I think are important for you commanding higher fees in your recruitment or search business. Terry, anything you'd add to that?
No, you've kind of said it all there. I just want to endorse. If you want to increase your profits, if you want to increase your turnover, look at your fees. I absolutely promise you, look at your fees. Best place to start. Same amount of work.
Yeah, I think almost without exception, we speak to a lot of recruitment search firm owners, and almost without exception, all the ones we speak to at some point, at some time or another, they felt undervalued by a prospect or a potential client. So that could be that you know the value of your service, the difference that you're making to the companies or the departments that you're placing candidates in, the difference that you're making to the candidate's life as well, and the hiring manager's life, and the impact that you can make. But you can sometimes feel like when you can communicating with the prospect, with the hiring manager, with the hiring leader, whoever it is sort of making that buying decision, you can almost feel like they don't value you. So if you've ever been asked to drop your fee by a few percentages, and even though again you feel like you even that feel like you're undercharging, but they're asking to reduce your fee further. Sometimes you'll get, if you can do it for less this time around, in the future we're gonna have lots of roles coming up and you can work on those. Or maybe it's that they're comparing you to your competitors, right? So it could be you're in a competitive market, you're trying to get a certain fee, but then they're telling you, so the client's telling you that, I like you, sounds really good, but your competitor down the road is offering to do it cheaper, and effectively it's the same thing. So if you've ever sort of experienced anything like that, this is really going to be for you. We're going to be looking at, how we sort of shift that and get to a point that when we're communicating with hiring managers, we can actually get paid what we deserve. And as we sort of mentioned, I think there's a lot of good content, really good content on business development for recruiters, and that could be, there's a lot of coaches in this space who talk a lot of sense, talk a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of free content you find on YouTube and places like that. I think for me, a lot of the time, what that content is missing, or what that content missing, it's not criticism of anyone else, but just perhaps overlooks, and what a lot of recruiters overlook is the economics within your business. So just give an example, I think you can pick any strategy for winning business, winning clients, growing. And I think sometimes what happens is you'll hear or see another recruiter using that strategy. It could be cold calling, could be NBC, could be emails, doesn't matter what that strategy is. And you think, you know what, that's working for them. I'm going to sort of use that in my business, and you use it and you can't quite get the same result. You don't quite achieve the same revenue numbers. And, you know, even in this group a couple of days ago, there was a discussion going on around, you know, what makes a top biller? How much does a recruiter need to bill in order to be considered a top biller? And, you know, we've been doing this for a long while. One of the biggest impacts on revenue, whether someone becomes a top biller, whether a business becomes widely profitable, is the economics. And when I say economics, I mean the fee that you charge and your delivery model. And today we're going to talk about the fee that you charge specifically. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just come back to you said earlier about undervalue, and we've all been there. And I'm, you know, talking to a former recruiter here, when the client pins you down and gets you to reduce your fee. And what you find is then, look, if you're going through a situation now where at some level you've fallen out of love with what you're doing and you don't get the same enjoyment as before, part of it will be due to the fact that clients have pinned you down and got you to reduce your rates, the consequence of which you're now working with an element of resentment. And that resentment, all that happens is you're now working on this job order. You feel that you've got to work on it because your attitude is, you know, getting this business at 15% is better than no business at all. But at another level, intellectually, you realize you're worth so much more than that. And you're resentful that the hiring manager, you know, you might be a specialist recruiter working in a particular market, and some recruiter, you know, down the high street or working from the kitchens offered a really low rate, and you felt that you've had to compete on that, but you're not. But the client isn't comparing like for like. The only comparison is your fees, and that's where that resentment comes in. And this happens slowly as well. It doesn't happen instantly, but you do that often enough. If at any level you feel this element of resentment or burnout, I would really encourage you to look at the type of clients you're working with and for, and the type of relationship that you've got with them. If there's any element where you're thinking they don't value and respect what I do, that's going to cause some of that resentment. That's going to cause that feeling of burnout because you're doing something you really don't enjoy doing. And there's this feeling of unjust going on within you. And the thing about pricing, we'll cover in a bit more detail, so much of it is emotional. It's not based on any logic, as we're demonstrating as we go on through this, that so much is based on emotion rather than any hard, cold, logical facts, as you'll see.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, look, bottom line is if you could get paid more for the work you do, you'd be better off, you'd have more revenue, you'd be more profitable. So look, let's jump into the 3 secrets, mindset shifts, whatever you want to look at it. You know, things that you need to believe and things you need to know about the way you charge and the way your prospects buy in relation to your fee. So the first one is, you know, the first thing you need to understand is that not everyone buys on price and price alone. So not all of your hiring managers are buying on price and price alone. So I think, you know, speaking to a lot of you, one of the conversations we hear a lot, you know, when we talk about, you know, why are you charging that particular fee? You know, why are you, you know, quite frankly, undervaluing yourself? Like the response we hear time and time again is, well, you know what, I thought that, you know, I'd go in low to get my foot in the door. You know, I looked at the market and I thought, you know, I'd rather than being at the top end, I'd go slightly cheaper than the rest, just to get my foot in the door. And I've heard that from new businesses entering the market, and I've heard that from more established businesses as well. And it seems to be, you know, to an extent, an accepted strategy for winning business. I think, you know, and this is not to say that it doesn't work and it can't work. I think it definitely does. But I think the second that you do that, second that you devalue your services, it's very difficult to then get out of that trap, get out of that pattern. And I've spoken to recruiters who did that at the beginning, feeling like this is going to be something I'm going to do for 2-3 months, just when I'm starting out. 10 years later, they're still doing the same thing. Still, every time they win a client feeling undervalued, they've got clients now on their books, active clients who they're still working with, who they feel like, you know, are effectively ripping them off They feel like they're giving this great service and they're feeling like the client doesn't value them, all because they have this attitude that, I'm just going to go in low and get my foot in the door. So the first thing you need to understand is that not all hiring managers are relentlessly seeking out the cheapest service. In fact, most of them want, rather than looking for the cheapest, they want the best. And sometimes when you reduce your fee, when you go in at a lower end, it speaks volumes about the confidence you have in what you're offering, right? If you're the best, if you're, good at what you do, like you say you are, why are you cheaper than, person B, right? So straight away it causes this distrust, which means that, yes, you may win the business, but it even affects the terms that you work under, right? So they're less likely to use you exclusively and more likely to sort of, take what they feel is a gamble on you, but they're going to sort of back it up with working with other recruiters as well. So your competition is increased. You're less likely to fill the vacancy, less likely to get paid. Do you add to that?
Drew, you broke up then. Do you talking to me then?
Yeah, so Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I thought you, yeah, sorry, you just broke up then, apologies, yeah. Again, this myth that your hiring managers buy on price, and the fact is, that's not true, I was gonna say nobody. A small percentage of your market are what's called price buyers. It's about 20% of your market are price buyers. And what that means is they will treat your offering as a commodity, but it's a very small percentage. So if you offer it at 15% and I come along and offer it at 14.5%, then I'm going to get the business. But the person that comes along obviously at 14%, then they get the business. But those type of buyers, it's 20% of the market, they buy on price and price alone. That's all they want to know about. And by the way, this applies not just to recruitment, to anything. And it's how they view it. There's another percentage of the buy market, they're called relationship type buyers. Now these guys, the price is important, but interestingly, what happens here is now price is the fourth most important thing. The relationship and your expertise has a greater value to these hiring managers than the price. But here's the good news. These guys make up about 60% of the market. And the final group of buyers are what's called premium buyers. Now these hiring managers, and I said it applies to anything, they will pay for a premium. They will pay a premium price for a premium service. Think about your phone. The Apple iPhone, I believe they've got, is it 17% of the smartphone market worldwide? It is the most expensive smartphone out there. You don't live in the cheapest house. If I said to you, I'm going to take you out for a meal in the days when we could go out for a meal, and I said I was going to take you to McDonald's because it was really cheap, you'd say, thanks, Terry, but I'll give that a miss. It's an absolute myth that we buy on price and price alone. And look, here's the ultimate test. The next time you're talking to a hiring manager and they're trying to get you to reduce your fee, ask them this question. Mr. or Mrs. Hiring Manager, do you want the cheapest candidate or do you want the best candidate? Because clearly you can't have both, but you let me know. Something like 97% of hiring managers say, no, I want the best candidate. Think about the law of supply and demand. If you're working in an area or a niche where there's a shortage of good quality candidates, how on earth can a hiring manager say to you, I'm going to pin you down or screw you down on your fees, but there's a shortage of candidates? The whole law of supply and demand says if there is really a shortage of candidates, and Drew will verify this, probably every other contingent recruiter we talk to says, yeah, my problem is I've got plenty of business, but I can't find the candidates. Think about that. If there really is a shortage, where's the logic then? There's a shortage, so the hiring manager is going to pay you less. There is no logic to that whatsoever. Remember I said, a lot of the pricing and your feelings about pricing are more to do with emotion than fact. Here's another thing that recruiters said. They say something like, oh, I'm one of the cheapest, or I'm kind of mid-range. So I'm charging the average of what every other recruiters are charging. Think about that statement. Because that statement says that there are recruiters out there right now getting business at a higher fee. Unless you are the cheapest, there are recruiters out there right now getting the same business at a higher fee. But they're deciding to reject those hiring managers that buy on price. And the whole really interesting thing about this, a lot of this is to do with standards. So there's some of you guys listening to this right now who say, hell, I won't go below 15%. There's another recruiter saying, well, I won't go below 10%. And there's another recruiter saying, I won't go below 20%. So you've all got your standards by which you'll say, I won't go below that figure. But that's based on your emotion, incidentally, and on your self-worth, rather than reality of the market. You know, and I know, and we've all met them and seen them. They're all over the place. These fixed fee recruiters who charge $1,000, £2,000 fixed fee, regardless of the salary. You know, and I know that they're not dominating the market. Surely, if your hiring managers were buying on price alone, they now would be dominating the market, but they're not. And the reason that they're not is that, as Drew said at the very top of this, not every one of your hiring managers buys on price and price alone. Only about 20% of your market. And you should do everything in your communication and your marketing to repel those buyers, and do everything in your marketing and your communication to attract the relationship buyers and the premium buyers. Because as Drew said at the very top of this section, being cheap or cheaper does not give you any advantage. It just makes, in fact, it works against you. Ultimately, it will work against you. That's number one, understanding that not everybody buys on price. Number two is pricing is about your self-worth and your self-esteem and your mindset rather than the strategy. Let me repeat that. Pricing is about your self-esteem and your mindset rather than strategy. Because here's the thing, you can't ask or charge any more than you actually believe you're worth or the service that you're worth. I used to work with a guy, Michael, in the States. His fee was 38% because he said he was worth it. He wouldn't do anything for less than 38%. And I've met recruiters who charge $2,000 or pounds. But it's all about their self-worth. The moment you have any doubt about the fee that you're charging and what you're asking, it's all about your self-worth rather than any logic whatsoever. Because there will always be another recruiter out there charging more, as there will always be another recruiter out there charging less. Drew, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I think some really good points. I think it's I've said right at the top of the call that pricing is, I talked about how it's one of my favorite subjects. Also, one of the quickest ways you can get a shift in someone's monthly revenue is by to charge more, getting them to get paid more for what they do, right? It's obvious, it's simple, it's quick. You can make this decision tomorrow that, you know what, next time I speak to a client, I'm just going to charge more, right? It's that simple to get the results you want in your business, to increase your revenue by working on your fees and your fee structure. But it's the one area we get the most pushback from the recruitment and search firm owners we work with. And if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, Terry, Drew, it's all well and good hearing what you're saying here, but my clients won't pay that, or I can't charge a higher fee, or you've got all these internal dialogue going on in your head that's telling you can't charge more, even though intellectually Terry said that there's obviously going to be people in the market charging higher fees than you, winning business from clients that you should have for higher fees than you. The fact of the matter is there's recruiters with less skill, less knowledge, currently charging higher fees than you. So intellectually that, yeah, you could get a higher fee, but because we have all this internal dialogue about, Terry said self-worth, he also mentioned standards. These are all fighting against you getting a higher fee. So, the difference between, a recruiter who charges, let's say 25% and one that charges 30% or one that charges, 10% is, like Terry mentioned it, the willingness to walk away. So we said right at the top, there's three types of buyers, and only one of those types is going to care about the cheapest fee. One of the big problems that recruiters have is that they're not walking away from those people. They're not, quite frankly, they're not turning enough business away because they feel like, if I turn this client away, if I turn this bit of business away, I don't know where my next client's coming from, and I need to keep the lights on. I've got bills to pay. I need to pay my consultants. I've got payroll, all this other stuff that we need to think about, right? How do we walk away from business when I need more business, right? So it's a sort of mindset shift that we need to get over. But the difference is, what we work on when it comes to increasing fees. We don't work on strategy. We don't work on, how can you get higher fees? Because that's the easy part. The difficult part to shift, the difficult changes to make are in your mindset, how you think, behave, believe, what you think about your service, the value that you provide in the marketplace. Terry, does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect sense. So, and the number 3 is don't give your fee without first demonstrating your value. See, I can almost guarantee that you've had a conversation like this. You've started talking and engaging with a hiring manager, and they've said something like this: what's your fees? Get your terms over to me, or worse to that effect. They have no interest in what you're offering. They have a great deal of interest in your terms of business and your fee. Now, you answering that question, you'll just position yourself as just another recruiter and look, here's my fee. Why don't you compare that to all the other fees that you're going to get over the next few days or weeks or whatever period it is? Without context, that hiring manager is just going to compare your fee to any other recruiter. And one of the key things here is and by the way, just digressing slightly, and that's why, by the way, it's important that you don't put things like this on your website, all your fees, or sometimes we see on some recruiters' website, we will not be beaten on price. What the hell? What are you saying there? The moment you put your fees on your website or have that kind of conversation, you're positioning your offering as a commodity. I'm just another recruiter, and the only thing I can compete with is the price. And that's all. Without any context, the hiring manager is going to make a decision based on that. So Drew can do it for 20%, Terry can do it for 21%, so I'm going to give the business to Drew. So your positioning, your communication, and by the way, this only works if you're communicating to the decision maker. It's not going to work if you're communicating to the office manager who's asked for your fees to pass it on to the decision maker. You've got to have that conversation with the decision maker within the business. Because if you don't, all the office manager does is says, here's this recruiter's terms of business, and here's their fees, and here's another recruiter, and here's their fees. And it's all about the price. So you've got to demonstrate the value first. So if a hiring manager says, what's your fee? Say, well, I'm not even sure if you qualify to work with us, and I'm not even sure if we're the right company for you. What I need to do is establish exactly what you're looking for and see if we're a good fit. So whether we're, a million of your local currency or 100 of a local, it makes no difference unless we know the right fit for each other. And that's the conversation you've got to be having. And get out of this treadmill of, what's your fees? And can you do anything like that? Can you sharpen your pencil and all that BS? And some people argue, but I'm about saving the company money. Think about that statement. I had a friend, very dear friend, he worked for actually, I won't say who he worked for. I had a very worked for a large corporate organization, and he went into the buying department. One of the first things he did, by the way, he's a recruiter now, and he wasn't at the time, is he called all the recruiters in and he reduced their fees on a PSL from 14 to 13%. And he was then called in by his manager, and his manager congratulated him on what a great job he'd done so early in his career with this organization. What Jerry couldn't tell them was he wasn't getting his CVs or resumes because he'd forced the fees down so low that recruiters going, to hell with it. Why would you go to this organization? But from the business point of view, we've saved a lot of money here. It's false economy, isn't it? Drew, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think, whereas sort of 1 and 2, we were talking more about you and your, less about strategy, more about how you think about your fee and how you think about your services. This is more about your sales process. And I think, we spoke about it before. A lot of recruitment and search business owners neglect their sales process. Different reasons, fear of rejection, fear of, maybe it's just the way they've been taught, but they're not selling. They don't sell the recruitment service. And what they do, Terry, as you mentioned, is that either, they don't sell at all and they just work on contingency. And, just to be clear, when we talk about selling recruitment, I'm talking about there being commitment from the client. As in, they've either paid you a retainer up front or they've committed to using you exclusively with a cancellation. A lot of recruiters just neglect that part of their process, and instead of selling, they'll just send their terms across. Right? There's no negotiation, there's no conversation, there's no discussion. They'll give their fees without first understanding what the client wants, whether they're the right recruiter to help the client, without demonstrating their value first. I think if you, as we said, without that comparison, everything's either expensive or cheap, right? Without a comparison of anything, you can give me a price of whatever, a car, whatever. Without a comparison, everything's expensive or cheap. If we don't control what they're comparing it to, we're going to end up on the wrong side of the negotiation. Terry mentioned that they're just going to compare you to other recruiters. The last thing you want, is your hiring manager to compare you to other recruiters, because that, as we said before, there's always going to be someone willing to do it cheaper than you. Always. You can't beat that. You can't fight against that. I think they shouldn't do it, and I think they should sort of. I think the whole industry should increase the value and increase what we do, but that's a different subject. But there's always going to be someone who's willing to do it cheaper than you. So we don't want to be comparing ourselves to them, or letting the hiring manager compare our services to them. We want the hiring manager to compare the cost of our services to the outcome that we're going to deliver. So think about, if you go out and you find the ideal candidate, you place that candidate, what impact is that candidate going to have to that organization? Right, that's what we want them to be comparing your fee to, because that, whatever you're asking for, whatever your fee is, that's gonna, almost seem insignificant in compared to the value that candidate will give. So we need to plant that comparison in the hiring manager's mind before we talk about a fee. Otherwise, as I said, we're going to compare it to other recruiters. Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, you've covered it all there, Drew. Excellent, and it's so true. So one of our clients, he recruits sales professionals, and one of his clients is looking for a sales professional that's going to add something like 1.5 million to the bottom line. But the hiring manager's quibbling over it's something like 8,000. It's a UK client, over a difference of, I think it was £8,000, and saying, well, can't you do anything about that and bring that down, because the difference between the percentage you charge and what we want to pay is going to be £8,000. And I said, are you kidding me? This individual is going to add 1.5 million to your bottom line, and you're quibbling and want to negotiate on £8,000. And let me ask you a question, Mr. Hiring Manager. If you're going to force me down on the price, but your competitor is going to pay me more, where do you think the top salesperson is going to go? It's a ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous conversation to be having if the hiring manager is serious about wanting the best candidate. And something that I was taught many years ago as a search consultant is that when you're negotiating, you have to be careful about this. So let's say your fee is 25% of the base salary, and the client says, can you knock 5% off that, and can we do this at 20%? Majority of recruiters will go, yeah, I'll do that. But you want to look at that number. See, let's say, I'm going to make this really easy. If the salary you're recruiting at is 100,000, so your fee is 25%, that means you're going to get £25,000 or dollars, or whatever your currency is. Apologies. If you knock 5% off, you're now going to get 20,000 of your local currency. So you haven't knocked 5% off. In fact, the reduction is 20%, isn't it? So just a little tip here: if you're negotiating up with a client, you're talking percentages. So you can say, I know we normally, last year all our fees were 20%, but we're only putting them up by 1% this year. And you get very little resistance to that, because a hiring manager will focus on the 1%. If a hiring manager is trying to negotiate you down, don't do it on the percentages. Well, yes, do it on the percentages, but look at the final fee. So in this case, your percentage is 25%. The client wants a 5% reduction. Look at the fee, which will be 25,000 of your local currency, and take the 5% off there, because that's an accurate representation of taking 5% off. Yeah, so don't take it off the total percentage, take it off the percentage of the fee that you're going to charge the client. Just a little top tip there that was shared to me many years ago, but made a massive difference to my my income generation, a massive difference. So that's it for this week. Thank you very much for doing it. Hey, listen, do us a favor. If you've really enjoyed this, or whether you've really enjoyed it or not, if you think it's worthwhile, please share it with your friends, invite them along. if the owners or directors of recruitment and search businesses and they want to get access to free training, this is absolutely free. There's no obligation, there's no charge for this. Every Thursday at 1500 UK time, we offer this free training. We'll give you tools, techniques, and strategies to help you generate more leads, make more placements, and increase your personal earnings. So share that with your friends. If you didn't enjoy this, can you keep that to yourself, please? Because that'd be absolutely fine. But seriously, thank you very much for joining us today. Drew, thank you very much. We'll see you again, same time next week. Until then, folks, take care, take action, and be relentless. Cheers, folks.